Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Builders Call. And great to see Meredith Ellison, you today, coming from sunny Asheville. Looks like it's sunny there.
It's awesome today. You couldn't
Beauty.
paint it any
Uh,
better today. Yeah.
Great. I know same in Michigan. We're starting to get those rays of sun finally. And Edward's sparing us the 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 envy of the waves of Dorado Beach crashing against your driveway.
My office view isn't oceanfront, so yeah,
Well, we all got to struggle a little there, Pritchett.
a little struggle.
Yeah. Well, welcome everyone. Mr. Spivey is en route to Vegas to be at the Cook Conference, so you're stuck with me welcoming you. But we are really honored today to have Edward Pritchett with us, and I'll let Meredith set this up in a second. But I will say that what he's presenting today, a good part of this, he presented at the Agency Owner Academy, and it's often the top ranked thing that is presented. So if it's your first time, you came to a good one. Always adding value, Mr. Pritchett. So we're excited to hear from you. And Meredith, man, just all the great stuff happening through the Ripple and Money Muscle Mind. We're ready to lean in. So what's on your radar today as we kick off?
Yeah, again, this is our second week of our money months. Just so appreciating the calls and texts and people that are engaging with Money Muscle Mind and Ripple. And as we were kind of planning out the month, B-Dubs was like, you definitely need to get Pritchett on. He was able to offer such just content that matters and just like nuts and bolts of just kind of how the basics of running a business. And as Pritchett and I were even discussing last week, I don't know why we aren't ever really taught these things. And it's like when we started our business, it's just like, why do I have to learn everything the hard way? It's like what you don't know, it's like you don't know what you don't know. And then just kind of what we were talking about, Pritchett's just going to line it up so beautifully. So I just wanted to first start with just complete gratitude for you, Edward Pritchett. You just always, anything I've ever just asked, it's not just a yes, but you pour your heart and soul into it. You show up, and you're just one of those people for me that I feel really safe with, meaning I can have like open and honest and vulnerable conversations with you. And I feel like you and I can talk through things, and you just help people like have different perspectives, and you give people a way to like expand their belief systems. I think sometimes we go into life always looking for like, I need to be proven yes, where I think if we all took this, like, where am I going to be proven wrong today? Like, where do I want to go? Because then I'm like, I'm learning and I'm growing. And I think we get scared of being proven wrong. And I think that's so many problems in our world right now is like, oh, if I look at it from a different way, there's just a bigger, my vision's broader. And I just, for me, you're just one of those people I feel safe to like, I want to talk through this and I want to rumble around on it. And I just always appreciate you and just so grateful for you saying yes today. So thank you, buddy.
Yes, ma'am. Anytime. I've always said I love what we get to do here because we do get to kind of expand and push against those limits. And we do have that opportunity to say, am I right or am I wrong on this? And I think if we ask those questions a lot more, we would get closer to the right answer than just saying, I'm stuck on this. Because a lot of times I was reading this great book. I won't give it out right now. But it was talking about how sometimes we make a decision and we invest so much. And even when it's wrong, we actually double down on our conviction about it because I've already invested this much time and this much money and this much effort into it. So I must be right. Let me keep doing it. And, we get into that whole beating your head against the wall. The book used a lot of examples of armies that have done this in the past and why certain military has gotten to certain wars. And you can apply that to our lives as well. So if we are more open to saying, okay, I'm doing something, is this the right way? And even if it is a right way, is it the best way? And that's how we continue to improve not only our businesses, but that's how this company has continued to improve and grow. Right, Brandon? There mistakes have been made. Things that we thought were going to work didn't work out, but we were able to say, you know what? Let's try a different route. Let's stop that and try a different route, or look for a better route, or find someone to advise us. And that's what I love about Donald Miller and what he presented with where I got this content from in his Business Made Simple, is that he presented another way to look at business for people who have never had the opportunity to learn in school. And even those who maybe have an MBA, they read this book or they hear this stuff and they're like, huh, I never thought about it like that. I understand business a little bit better now. So that's what I love about what this company gives us all the opportunity to do.
I think it's at every level too, what you just said. Like, I think the goal for everyone is how do you fail quickly and adjust quickly? Fail small, hopefully. You don't want to go all in and fail. But how do you push yourself to fail? Because that's really the only way that you're going to grow. And we talked a lot about that at the leadership. But I mean, even if you're a brand new agent, right, Edward? I mean, when you came in as a salesperson, like, your goal was, how many no's can I get through? How can I learn these lessons as quickly as possible and affordably as possible?
Yeah.
And I think that's such a different mindset when people go through that and think of it the right way. Then they don't get paralyzed by this fear of, shame, of failure, and all these other things that happen. It's just part of the process if you're doing it the right way.
Yeah. Well, Pritchett, I'm going to just kind of hand it over to you and let you run point. Brandon's going to be running our PowerPoint, and then, just thank you, buddy.
Yes, ma'am. Well, as I said, I'm going to present something. The book is Business Made Simple, Donald Miller. He's also behind Story Brand, which, if you're wondering about marketing or you want to learn more about marketing, highly recommend his Story Brand book as well. But if we want to pull that up, I'll go through this relatively quickly, because it's more about getting a baseline understanding. You have to dig into this to really understand it more fully. You have to start applying it to how you're running your business, the practices that you currently have. And the more you apply it, the more you start to learn, the more you start to tease out. But one of the things that I've always found is that most people don't understand some key concepts and basic definitions, right? We define our world by the words that we use and the definitions and the meaning that we give to something. And so if you have some better definitions around running a business, and that's what we all have. We all have a small business that we want to become a medium-sized business that we hopefully want to become a large or enterprise scale business. And all of these things that we'll go through here in the next 15 minutes or so are things that are necessary. Like, they're a component, whether you pay attention to them or not, right? Like, I can not want to believe in gravity, but when I jump off the building, it's going to affect me one way or the other, right? And that's the same thing when it comes to these fundamental principles, these things that drive business. So we'll start off with the airplane model here on the first slide. And this is really what those key components, those key things. And so it's, how can we think about our business in a way that makes sense to us? And most of us have at least a fundamental understanding. You don't have to have the scientific background as far as how does a plane fly, but we know that a plane needs certain things. Like, if you saw a plane without wings, you probably wouldn't get on it, right? So using this as the model of, like, as you own a business, as you manage a business and you're growing and investing in business, what are those key components that make up your business? So we can go ahead and just start popping those up there. I'll go through these as they come up, but it starts, of course, with leadership. So in a plane, you have a cockpit. There's someone who's at the controls. They're at the helm. The pilots come on all the time saying, hey, look, we got the flight attendants back in the back. They're here to give you direction. They work for me. If they give you a directional order, it's just like I gave a directional order. But leadership is the core thing. And it's, what Brian Williamson works on with us. It's what Ripple is helping us to do. But, like, what's the leadership component? Who is the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of your company? And if you're not operating in that way, like some of us get into, and I think one book that Brad Smith talks about, E-Myth and the E-Myth Revisited, but a lot of us, we don't take the actual leadership or the entrepreneurial driver of our business. We get more into the managerial role or the technician role. So we have to understand what leadership of a business is and how does that person have to function for the business. If you're always in the managerial place, if you're always in the technical aspect of running your business, then you don't have a business, right? This is where you stay in the S quadrant of your business if you can't think like a CEO. So again, we won't get into the how-to, but I want you to understand what that is and ask yourself the question, am I acting as the CEO of my company, or am I being a technician? Am I being a manager for my company right now? From there, typically we go in the next one that I want to hit on is the wings of the plane, right? So again, you wouldn't get onto a plane that doesn't have wings. So products and services, do I have them? What are they? Can you identify, like, have you sat down? We know fundamentally that with what we do, our product is an insurance product, right? Whole life, term, IUL, an annuity, like that's the product. So do I have those products? Do I understand how those products affect my business? And then the other side, the other wing to that is not just the products. There's a lot of companies out there that have products, but because they have no service, those products sit in a warehouse, those products build up and the company ends up going out of business and then, sells all their product to their competitor who does have service. So what are the services? What are the services for your business? And we as builders on this call, our services is not just us being out there servicing our clients with the products, but there's also a service component to building an agency. What are the services that I give to my agents that I provide to grow my business? What are the products for growing our businesses, right? Because the insurance product isn't the only thing that allows us to grow our business on the agency side. What are the products that come into play for building and growing an agency? Again, if I haven't sat down and thought about this, I'm just kind of guessing as I move along, right? I need my wings to be strong. I need my wings to support the weight of the plane. The larger the wingspan that I have, the more lift that I can potentially get, the heavier, right? Like a big plane has big wings. Small, if I'm flying a Cessna, little tiny wings. So if I just want a Cessna, great. Just have a little bit of product, a little bit of service. If I want, a C-130 aircraft carrier or aircraft that can carry, tons of equipment all across the world, I need to have a larger wings. So what does that look like for your business? Now, the driver of that, like I can have products, I can have services, but what drives those products and services is the marketing and sales. And those are the engine, right? That's the driver that gives force, that gives power to this plane as it takes off. So if there's not marketing going on, and one great thing that we have is Symmetry is here to do a lot of the marketing that we need them to do. But we look at other things like social cue. What are you doing on the recruiting side? What does your website look like? What is your, social media, social cue is helping with that, but what does your Facebook page look like for your business? What are you doing locally? Now, I see a lot of people, I love seeing Miranda Martin posting things about how she's like, in the Tampa, Naples, like top women entrepreneurs of the year and things of that nature. She's doing marketing for her business. She's giving more credibility, more power to the engine that drives where her plane is going. And the sales component, of course, is what we do on a day-to-day basis and what we encourage our agents to do. If we aren't out selling both our products and our services, then we get no momentum. We get no power to drive the airplane moving forward. Now, the overhead is the body of the plane. There's something has to make all these things work. That's where the people reside, right? You have your flight attendants in there, you have your passengers in there, you're probably carrying some cargo in there, and that's the body of the plane. So we talk about it with the I'm forgetting the name of the book right now, but the one about the bus, energy bus, right? So who's on my plane, right? You've been on those planes with the flight attendant that you're like, look, y'all could drop me off at the next stop. Like, please, I don't need to be around this person anymore, right? So who's on your plane? Who's helping you to run your business? Who do you have in operations? Maybe you have a recruiter. Maybe you have someone who's, your interface between you and the home office. Who are the people that are helping to make sure that your plane is running? And then those passengers, and the way I start to think about the passengers on the plane is, if I'm building this plane and my agents are helping me get there, my passengers to a certain degree are agents that I'm wanting to bring to the next destination with me so I can teach them how to build their plane. So who are the passengers? Who are the people that are serving those folks on that plane? what is their cost, right? Like, do I have too big of a body for the wings that I have, right? Or too big of a body for the engines that are powering what I'm doing? Like, if I look at my sales and my sales don't support a staff of 20, guess what? My plane's not going to take off. The last thing is the tail. The tail provides that all-important guidance for the plane. The tail provides stability for the plane, and the tail and the wings are where a lot of the fuel and the things that drive the marketing and the sales come from, and that's the cash flow. So what does the cash flow look like for your business? If I'm not managing cash flow, then I'm not managing a business. So these are just some key components that I wanted to make sure, just quick definitions around these things. But now your job is to take this and dig in. Think about, what are these things for my business and where does it look? And again, I'm going to continue to reference back to the book. And if you really want to dig in and learn specifics and how these things affect your business, really dig into Business Made Simple, and that will help to bring it even clearer and allow you to start making some game plans about what exactly does my airplane look like and where can it take me. All right. Now, from there, we have to think about, like, this is, again, a builder's call, and we're talking about owning a business. So there's a couple of structures, and I'll be real brief with this one, but there's a couple of structures here that we can talk about on the next slide, where if you're owning a business, you have to make some decisions as far as, how's my business going to be taxed? What is that going to look like? How am I going to set it up so that I can de-risk my business, so that I don't have to worry about personally losing my house, losing my assets if something were to go wrong with the business? Because guess what? Things can go wrong with the business, right? But the ideal here is LLC versus C Corp. And the example that I always give for this, Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest men in the world, if you asked him, what is the structure of Berkshire Hathaway? And I think most people would answer, oh, it's a corporation, and they're thinking C Corp, S Corp. But he has run Berkshire Hathaway as an LLC ever since he's founded this company, all right, and built that to $1 billion company. We think in this terms of, I need to get an S Corp or a C Corp, because Brian, I don't know why. I think it's just this mythology about, like, I want a corporation and an LLC isn't a real corporation. An LLC is a real corporation, right? An LLC can be taxed as an S corporation. An LLC can be taxed as a C corporation. So this is where doing that research, doing that due diligence will allow you to make sure that you're operating your organization, your business, in the simplest way, because Business Made Simple. That's what I loved about how Donald Miller titled that, the simplest way, but also in a way that's going to be profitable for you. So let's say you take my advice on that, and you get yourself set up as an LLC. How do you de-risk the enterprise? Okay. So this is where we need to go into talking a little bit more in detail about, when I have this thing set up, what does the structure look like? Right. And if I know some of those definitions from the previous example of the airplane model, I can talk with business attorneys, I can talk with my CPA, and I can make sure that I'm setting things up so that I don't get a knock at the door by federal agents, right? Like, none of us want that. I don't have to worry about the A word, the audit at the end of the year. I can do things in a way that allow my business to be able to flow, so I can put my focus on running my business as opposed to putting out fires that pop up because I'm operating in a risky environment. I know a lot of us, we love that, oh, I can write everything off because I'm a business owner. Yes and no, right? Like, we have to know, like, what are those things that my LLC can write off? What are those things that it can't? And that's what, after you have a formal structure for your business, now you can start talking with the right experts to make sure that you're able to de-risk what you're doing in ownership of that business. So if we'll go to the next slide here, this is where we can talk about actually the management side, okay? And this is where, and I shared this at AO Academy. This is from a few years ago. So, like, you can't go like use numbers from this to pull anything out of my bank account or anything like that. So I'm not too worried about that. But this is an actual P&L statement from January for the first quarter of 2017. And I wanted to show this because like this was started in 10, so this was 7 years in, but we started using profit and loss statements probably 3 years into forming up the actual LLC. I formed my LLC in 2013. So I operated my business for a while just as a sole proprietor, independent agent, right? That's where most of our agents are going to start. By 2013, a little less than 3 years after I got started, I had formed an official LLC, started to move my business into that entity. And this is where we started looking at regular profit and loss. This is where I can start managing that all important cash flow side of my business. Many of you have no idea, like money comes in and money goes out. and if that's what's happening, there's no way to manage or work with that cash flow to make sure that it's providing the right level of energy and the right stability to the wings and to the engines that are powering your business airplane, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to share that. Again, we won't get into the details. Like I think Brian at AO Academy probably spent like 35, 40 minutes really digging into this. But like if this is the first time you've ever seen it, now go ask some questions. Go learn a little bit more about what these things are and how you can start to formulate those for your business and for your organization. So these were just a couple of quick things. You know, I won't get into the last couple of details because I think just from a time standpoint, and I want to make sure I save some time for you guys to have any questions. But just some quick things that, like, if I understand fundamentally some definitions about my business, if I understand how to structurally set that business up, and then I start managing that business like a business owner, it starts to get you to think more like a business owner. And as you think more like a business owner, your business actually starts to move from that self-employed place into the true business owner quadrant where, as we all hope to be able to do, one day we can leave it in good hands and walk away and do the other things that we want to do with our lives. So it's just recalibrating how we think about what we're doing here at Symmetry. Stop thinking just so I'm an independent agent and it's just me and I'll do what I can right now. But how can I start as soon as possible setting up to where I am growing and building a business? It may be a small business right now, but I'm setting the foundation on very stable ground so that when it becomes a medium-sized business, it has what it needs. When it becomes a large business, it has what it needs. And even when we get to that enterprise level, I have a foundation that I can grow upon.
Pritchett, I would just add, because I think some people out there might be saying, well, when do I open an LLC? When do I actually start? You said 3 years in, but if you had it to do over, when would you have started running P&Ls?
Oh, I was late. I'll be the first to say that. We broke out as agency owners in January of 2012. And that is definitely when I should have started my LLC in 2012. January 2012, like whenever I'm to that size, and I could have started looking at my business as a business at an earlier point. So I think that AO inflection point is a really good place. And that's why we're talking about it at AO Academy. And while some of this hopefully can seep into key leaders as well, because I need to start in that range, be thinking about how I need to set it up and to start setting aside funds to do it, right? It costs money to set it up properly. So I need to start setting aside and budgeting so that I can set it up properly.
Yeah, I was going to mention just briefly about that so everyone on this call is aware if you've not heard yet. So we are sending people that go through Key Leader Academy get a copy of Business Made Simple. And a part of Key Leader Academy is actually someone from our finance team coming in and educating about a P&L at that stage of the business and sort of teaching the basics and the kind of the ABCs of money, and just a really great great session to get you started thinking about all these things. So just reinforcing kind of what you're getting after. I know we even have things in the chat about QuickBooks, $7.99 a month spits out a P&L, right? Like simple, these are like bite-sizable things you could start to get your mind around to learn. So.
Yeah.
And you can even start with an Excel spreadsheet like that. The first P&L that we did was just Excel. And then we graduated, like this comes from QuickBooks. But, and that's one of those things. Yes, I can use QuickBooks. So who's going to do it, right? Like, is your operations person going to learn QuickBooks so that they can put everything in? But even in the beginning, I had to sit with my financial officer to kind of talk through, like, here's what this needs to be coded and here's what this needs to be coded. Like, you have to do all of the jobs as a CEO until you can instruct someone how to do it. I can't just say, hey, here, go make me a P&L in QuickBooks. I'm like, okay, I'll guess at some stuff, but no, I'm the leader. I'm in the cockpit. So I have to be able to direct where are we going, what does it look like in all those different areas. And that's where just understanding this from that, what is this entity that I'm building? Like, when you can try to see it from that scale, then it gets us in the mindset where we can really start planning this out more strategically as we move forward.
And that's why I think even when you're a business of one, you know, you can start with Excel spreadsheets and really start training yourself on how to run your business, because you will make mistakes. There will be things you don't know until you know. And when you start with just you and treating it like a business that you should, then you're growing as your org is growing, right? And your sophistication is growing as your org becomes more sophisticated. So I just think sometimes people just always, well, when I get 10 people, I'll do this. When I get 20, and it's like, if you would just start implementing some things as just running your business, even if it's just you, I think that makes a big difference.
I think there's a couple of really good key takeaways for anybody that's maybe feeling a little overwhelmed with this, because it can be overwhelming. I agree 100% with what you just said, Meredith. Like, even as a personal producer, it's smart to get things set up the right way. Find a good CPA. We are working behind the scenes currently with some really large firms to try to systematize this for you guys a little bit, so that you have the opportunity to work with people in the future that know much more about your business. Don't have any indication of cost or when that would be rolled out, but it is something that we're working on because we know the value in it. The other thing I would say that really gets people in, that can get people in trouble, is I would work towards paying quarterly estimates as quickly as possible, instead of just waiting until the end of the year thinking you know what your taxes are going to be. Like, get on that stuff quickly, because the last thing you want is the end of your year, the beginning of your next year, kind of ruined a little bit, or at least spoiled a little bit after you ended up making a lot more money than you thought, or you didn't save as much as you thought, right? So there's nothing better than being prepared, paying your quarterly estimates, and then potentially the following year, maybe even getting a little bit of a refund, you know?
Right.
It can certainly happen.
I just also, one thing, Edward, I love everything you went over today. Thank you so much for sharing that. You can probably remember this time too, like, in addition to, like, one of the first steps being, you know, setting up the right legal entity, I think one of the best things I can remember we did to create financial discipline, which is incredibly important as a business owner to start to be financially disciplined, is, you know, I don't know how many different checking accounts we ended up setting up in the end, but, you know, having 4 to 5 checking accounts, 4 to 5 different accounts, that as soon as a dollar comes into your pocket or into your main bank account, that, you know, the tax load on that is, I would just throw a number out. Let's say it's 30% or 25% or whatever your historic tax load is. Every dollar that comes in, 30 cents goes into that account. If you're trying to, you know, if you're trying to build your reserves, then another 15 cents of that dollar goes here. If you know that your business cost is X, then a certain percentage goes into that account. And you start to create accounts, which creates financial discipline. And also just, it pushes you, because you realize that's not my money. That's my reserve money. That's my tax money. That's my business income. I'm not going to eat my seed. This is what I have to live on. But a CPA can help you understand, like, what accounts might be good. We started checking accounts for, like, when we first started doing destinations. Look, this is going to cost us X, Y, and Z. So we got to start saving for that. This is going to cost this. And I don't know how many checking accounts we have now, but setting up enough checking accounts is so powerful for financial discipline.
Yeah. When we talked about that as a company, I think it was during one of the first Money Muscle Mind, the first time we actually did it. I can remember that became a new habit of mine for a period of time until I was able to pass it off to someone else to do. But, like, we get paid daily. And so, like, I would go into their checking account every morning And what
Boom,
came
boom,
in,
boom.
I would do my calculations, and that just goes to those different places. And like you said, it starts to let you know how much money you actually have, right? Not how much money you think you have, because it all
That's it.
one account, and then you go out and blow money on this or blow money on that, and then you wake up and like, oh, I can't go to conference because I don't have any money.
Yeah, that's it.
If I set it up correctly. And it's a good practice, right? It lets you know where
Yep.
your business is. And, you know, doing that on a daily basis, it takes what, 5 minutes, right? Like I saw what came in last night, move it over to where it needs to go. And I know what's in the operations account. That's what we can use to drive this plane forward. So, I mean, there's so many good examples. And that's why like this takes, you got to have multiple conversations about it. But it's like dig in with those who are having that level of success, dig into the books that we have and the training that's going on. And I was looking at a lot of the questions in the Q&A, and that there's a lot of things that you definitely want to have some one-on-one conversations about so that you can get a firm understanding for yourself. Because I even saw already, you know, there's some people saying, well, you still got to do an S corp because of this. Like, okay, again, talk with an expert, talk with some of those experts to help you understand, is that actually true? And be open to it not being true before you just commit to one thing.
And I'll just have one final point, and babe, I know we got to move on, but what is also really cool, just going back to the checking accounts, is you can align your checking accounts with your values, which is really cool because, you know, I remember, and I've told the story before, is Brandon and I had a value of giving back, right? But in my checking account and in my calendar, my value wasn't really getting exercised. And that's where you can really look at your values, look at your checking accounts and look at your calendars and seeing where you're spending your time. But then it was so much freedom. It was like, well, we want a certain percentage going back into the community. And then you're not emotionally tied to a number because you set up, it's a percentage that I want to do this with, or a percentage I want a vacation with, right? And I'm going to hook it up, or a percentage I need to give, you know, I need to pay my taxes with. So in a way, it feels so freeing when you're able to do that, and you're able to like exercise your values through your bank accounts, which is really a fun, empowering thing to do. So Pritchett, as always, so much value. Appreciate you. Pritchett's going to come back on for our segment where we'll have 10 minutes or so on Money Muscle Mind here in this call. So stay tuned.
Thank you, guys.
Love it. Love it. All right. Sorry about that. Birdie was getting restless, man. She got all fired up about taxes. Starting to.
Not surprising.
I know. It's a very, very fire-upable topic. We got a good one today. Janet Matthews. We always say with one T, but there's also a T at the end of Janet. So could possibly be two T's. We've also got Brad Gainey.
We do.
We've got Jacob Pogue. Good Lord, man. This is a packed call. All right. Let's get to it. Let me share my screen.
You want to do a video first? We got a video.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and do that video. Good call.
All right, let's roll it.
What do you want to be known for?